All right, welcome everyone. Today's webinar topic is Sustaining the Cultural Community, Appalachian Preservation Programming. So I am here this afternoon to talk about a program that the Conservation Center for Art and Historic Artifacts will be bringing to Appalachian regions of Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia over the course of the next 2 years, really, but really about a year and a half. Okay, so the program is funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities. The NEH, as I'm sure many of you know, was founded in 1965 as an independent federal agency. It funds education, research, and public programs in the humanities. Grants are awarded in many categories, including challenge grants, preservation, education, and training grants, and digital projects for the public grants. So towards the end of 2016, the Conservation Center, my organization, found out that we were awarded with nearly $400,000 to support our Preservation Field Services program throughout 2017 and 2018. The bulk of this program is a regional collection stewardship program, which is what I'm here to talk with you about this afternoon. In the past, the Conservation Center has led a very successful collection stewardship program in the Philadelphia area, which was developed with the goal of being replicable in other areas of the country. So building upon that program, we have set out to lead a set of ambitious new strategies to serve regions of the country that have been traditionally less heavily served in terms of preservation and collections care training and resources. Before we jump into more information about this program, I want to let you know a little bit more about the organization that I work for, the Conservation Center for Art and Historic Artifacts, or CCAHEA, located in Philadelphia. We are a nonprofit conservation facility and preservation education organization. Our conservation treatment lab specializes in the treatment of works on paper, including photographs and books, through conservation and state-of-the-art digital imaging services. In addition to the conservation work that we do, which was our founding focus and goal when we started back in 1977, we also offer a variety of other services, such as fellowship opportunities, fundraising support, and disaster assistance. The department that I work for, which is the Preservation Services Office, is the outreach and education arm of the organization. We present educational programs, conduct preservation needs assessments, and assist institutions with the development of many institutional plans, including collections management policies, preservation plans, emergency plans, and more. We are a national organization serving nonprofit cultural institutions, private individuals, and other collecting organizations, not only in our physical home region of the Mid-Atlantic, but all over the country. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about the services that CCAHEA provides. As I mentioned, we have a conservation treatment lab wherein our conservators work exclusively on paper-based artifacts, including drawings, watercolors, prints, posters, maps, wallpaper, books, and photographs, as well as more historic predecessors to paper such as papyrus and parchment. We also have a housing and framing department in which we offer high-quality preservation-grade matting and framing on site, not only for the materials that we treat in-house, but also for one-off items and collections as well. We have a digital imaging lab in which we undertake scanning and photography to create high-quality facsimiles and reproductions, as well as collection documentation. And then finally, I already told you a little bit about our Preservation Services Department. So that's my department at the Conservation Center. I guess I neglected to introduce myself. I'm sorry about that. My name is Diani Faiga, and I am the Director of Preservation Services. So this is the department that I oversee. As I mentioned, it really is our education and outreach wing of the Conservation Center, in which we undertake writing and assistance with developing all of these types of plans and policies and survey materials that I mentioned here, as well as being responsible for all of our educational programs, our written resources, and our outreach initiatives. So in this grant that we received from the NEH, we identified 2 regions of the country in which we are going to be offering preservation, education, and training, and other services. We selected the 2 regions through consultation with the American Association for State and Local History as areas that have had limited access to conservators or other preservation expertise. So the 2 areas are the eastern Gulf Coast, comprising Alabama, Mississippi, and the Florida Panhandle, and the area that I believe most of you here this afternoon are from, which are, as I mentioned previously, Appalachian, Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia. So although many of the states covered in this, not only in this region, but in the Eastern Gulf Coast region as well, have had programs such as IMLS Connecting to Collections initiatives, or have very strong state agencies devoted to history, collections care, archives, museums. It's not that these services do not exist at all in these states. What we are aiming to do is focusing on areas of the states, in particular, areas of the region that may not have been as heavily served by previous programs. Programs such as IMLS Connecting to Collections initiatives often focus many of their in-person programming on metropolitan areas or those with an extreme density of institutions. So we thought, and our partners at AASLH agreed that if we took a more regional approach, looking not at state lines, but at areas of the country that might have similar needs and types of institutions, we could potentially bring this type of programming to a new audience. So this new outreach model will combine in-person education and networking opportunities, webinars, targeted on-site consultation, availability for phone consultation, as well as connection with resources, and a final conference to catalyze collections care activities in the regions, while really encouraging the development of a community infrastructure that will be sustainable beyond the end of the 2-year grant period. The ultimate goal will be to link together a cohort of preservation partners to establish a long-term network for on-the-ground regional support. So here's just a little bit of a preview of what I'll talk about in a lot more detail in a few minutes, but this is the broad overview to what we will actually be doing over the next roughly 1.5 years. A big focus of the program will be on in-person workshops. We'll be visiting the region twice a year and presenting the same workshops in 2 locations per region. So in this first round, in just a little over a month from now, we'll be coming to Ohio and Kentucky. In the fall, we will hopefully probably be visiting West Virginia and a different site in Ohio. And then in spring of 2018, we will be back to visit different sites in Kentucky and West Virginia. So we will cover at least some locations in each of the states twice throughout the entire duration of these in-person programs. In the months when we are not in the region in person, we will be presenting webinars on a range and variety of collections care related topics. I can share more about that in a few minutes. We have a website or a web page on our CCAHEA website devoted to this initiative, and where we will be aiming to connect participants with preservation and collections care resources, both written resources and connection with information, as well as connection with specialists and other consultants and experts in collections care and preservation. areas. And then finally, in the fall of 2018, we will be holding a final regional conference to discuss everything that has happened over the past year and a half and start exploring next steps for sustainability. So I mentioned towards the beginning of this presentation that we are adapting a model for this project that we've already done in the Philadelphia area. So pretty quickly, I'll just tell you a little bit about the regional work that we've done there and how it has benefited the area. The Philadelphia Stewardship Program in its current iteration is actually concluding this year. It began in 2002, so its current iteration has been a 15-year project. We received funding from the William Penn Foundation, which is a Philadelphia foundation that funds regional initiatives in a variety of fields. And it serves 6 counties in the Philadelphia region, both in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. So this project, this Philadelphia Stewardship Project, was born out of a survey of a number of institutions in the area that we undertook back in 1997, which revealed that objects at 59% of the institutions we surveyed were found to be in substandard storage conditions. So that could be anything from objects stored in areas that lack fire depression or suppression systems, lack security monitors, rendering them vulnerable to catastrophic loss from fire, water, theft, or vandalism, lack proper environmental controls, lack staff or volunteers that have been appropriately trained in object handling, lack adequate policies and procedures regarding collections. So the full gamut of issues that can impact the long-term preservation of cultural collections. So the surveyor stressed the need for further preservation planning at Philadelphia's cultural institutions in order to ensure the longevity of these important collections. Following that survey, which was kind of like, if you're familiar with the Heritage Health Index, which was a major nationwide survey undertaken of cultural institutions in 2005 and then again in 2015 throughout the entire country. So this was kind of like a very scaled back version of that just in this area. But following that, we went on to launch the Philadelphia Stewardship Program. The Stewardship Program determined that while it's fantastic to have institutions have their preservation needs assessed and identified, that's not necessarily the end of the process. There has to be a training component, an educational component, and a built-in mechanism for follow-through. So the Philadelphia Stewardship Program, which is not actually fully how this regional stewardship program will be set up, but just to give you a sense, there are 5 tracks of projects that institutions can work through, beginning with a preservation needs assessment. I'll talk a lot more about that in a few minutes. Going on to a preservation plan, which is like a strategic plan focused on preservation of the collections, as well as risk assessment and emergency preparedness. The 4th track is assisting institutions with developing collections management related policies. And then the newest track is digital preservation planning and policy development around digital collections. Another big part of the Philadelphia Stewardship Program is the Collections Care Training Series, wherein we offer hands-on training opportunities for institutions in the region, covering a range of preservation topics, including rehousing, emergency salvage, processing basics, and many more. We also link institutions, again, with online resources, and because we are physically located in Philadelphia, we're able to provide physical access to our in-house reference library as well. So we have seen, since we've had this program up and running for 15 years at this point, we've had an opportunity to measure the impact, and we have seen that there really has been a strong market improvement in preventive conservation throughout this region as opposed to nationwide. So what we were able to do is compare information, survey results from the Philadelphia region with survey results from the rest of the state from an IMLS-funded Connecting to Collections preservation plan that we undertook in 2009. We asked institutions from all over the state to answer all sorts of questions related to collections care, and thus we were able to directly compare our stewardship region to the rest of the state. So I'm just going to go very quickly through this representative data because, again, this is all just kind of background information. But in terms of environmental monitoring, in the stewardship region, you'll see that 40% are monitoring the environment and collections areas as compared to 22.4% statewide. 35% measuring or controlling light levels in collection spaces, 35% in our region compared to 21.5% region-wide. And then having up-to-date needs assessments and preservation plans. This is really the most drastic difference, I think, as you'll see that in the stewardship region, a full 73.7% of institutions have up-to-date needs assessments, as opposed to 17.8 statewide, and then 68.4 with up-to-date preservation plans in the region, as opposed to only 12.1 statewide. We also found that the Philadelphia Stewardship Program enabled institutions to leverage additional funds for preservation and collections care initiatives, nearly $1 million. And this slide just lists out some of the greatest benefits that were found in focus group conversations undertaken 5 years ago at this point in 2012. So those are all the findings from the Philadelphia Stewardship Program that, as I said, really influenced this program. And given these successes, we were really excited about the potential to, as I mentioned, implement the program in other areas of the country as well, and hope to have some of the same really excellent positive results. So over the course of the next 2 years, we will be bringing many of these ideas to you. We'll be holding in-person workshops scheduled to be starting at the end of this June, multiple times throughout the region. Some of the topics will include what I've listed here, but there may be room for changes there as well. We have very tentative agendas for the full duration of the program, but we are really interested in tailoring the programming to match the needs of the region. So after this first round, we will really be trying to work more directly with sites and participants in the region to see just exactly what you need. So again, the idea here is that we want to provide a way to walk institutions in the region through the next steps of collections care, helping them implement and follow through on some of the recommendations that you might be able to access just through reading about preservation or collections care, or some of the on-the-job learning and training that you might encounter in your day-to-day work anyway. In future workshops, as I mentioned, we will have more local involvement. This first round, in the interest of really just getting it up and running, and also in the interest of kind of providing a consistent message and consistent planning capabilities, we are doing all of the training ourselves. And when I say we in this region, I mean me. My colleague Samantha Forsco, who is our Director of Preservation Services, she's been really involved in the back end on planning this entire initiative as well, and she is the project lead for the Gulf Coast region, whereas I'm the project lead for the Appalachian region. But anyway, so we are going to be providing all of the presentations ourselves in this first round. In the only local presence as far as presenters that we'll have in these workshops is we will have some local representatives in both Ohio and Kentucky speaking during the fundraising session about particular regional grant opportunities. But in subsequent rounds, we hope to have entire sessions devoted to issues presented by area instructors who are the most intimately familiar with issues in the region. So registration is live for that first round of workshops now, and I'm looking at the screen now and there's a major typo there, which is that the Ohio programs are not the exact same date as the Kentucky programs. I can do many things, but I can't be in two places at once. So those Ohio dates should be June 22nd and 23rd. And the Kentucky dates are correct. These, I won't go through all of, this is a wordy slide, I won't read through the entire workshop descriptions, those are available on our website, but just to give a sense, broad strokes, the first workshops will be devoted to preservation best practices on day 1, and then on day 2 we'll look at fundraising for collections care as well as artifact handling and housing for any type of cultural collections. Registration information is at our website. The easiest way to find it is to go to CCAHEA.org and then click on program calendar, and that'll take you to the listing of everything that we have scheduled currently. The direct links are quite cumbersome. The workshops will all be held from 9:30 to 3:30, so not quite a full long day, but most of a day, and they will be, if you want to just attend one day, it would cost $30. If you want to attend both days in a row, they're $50 for the two. Additionally, as I mentioned, during the months that we're not in the region, we'll be holding webinars such as this one, except hopefully enhanced from this one in that, as I mentioned, hopefully we will have more of an interactive capability going forward. So the webinars are aimed to have participants be able to ask questions, learn more about specific topics, and even chat to a certain extent with your peers. We do not have all of the topics for the webinars selected because this is an area where we are really interested in feedback from you as the potential participants. So please do go ahead and email me, or there are various ways to contact us throughout our website. Get in touch with someone at the Conservation Center about areas within preservation and collection care that you are really interested in hearing about, and it's possible that we already have some time devoted to those in upcoming in-person workshops, but it's also possible that, entirely possible, that we will be able to just devote a webinar specifically to that topic as well. So please, we really do want to tailor these directly to the needs of the region. We will be doing a limited number of on-site preservation needs assessments in each region. So institutions in the region will have the opportunity to apply for free CCAHEA preservation needs assessments. This slide, again, it's quite wordy because it contains an actual definition of preservation needs assessments, but you don't have to read through the whole thing. I can just let you know that a needs assessment is basically a site visit, a survey, and a report that is going to touch on anything and everything related to collections preservation. So it's a very holistic view of collections care, management, and physical preservation, looking at everything from staffing, policies, to building, environment, and then on down to specifics such as how the collections are actually stored and housed and handled and used. So this entails a full day site visit, wherein one of our preservation services staff, probably me for this region, would visit an institution, tour throughout the collection spaces, meet with collections representatives, whether those are staff, volunteers, or board members, and then write up a pretty lengthy report detailing all of my observations as well as follow-up recommendations for implementing collections care activities. And then, as I mentioned, the wrap-up culmination of the project will be a final conference to be held in the region sometime in the fall of 2018, so toward the end of the grant period, in which presentations from the grantees that received preservation needs assessments will discuss their outcomes and discuss that process. There will also be discussion sessions focusing on topics to include, but not limited to, additional needs within the regions, opportunities for collaboration within the regions, and sustaining some of the community connections that hopefully will be born throughout the project. It'll certainly be an opportunity for some in-person networking. And we are really hoping, we're not certain about this yet, but we're hoping to have an afternoon or possibly even a following day after the main conference devoted to some type of hands-on collections care project at an actual site in the region. So something like a housekeeping project where volunteers will go help an institution clean up a storage space or do rehousing of a certain portion of the collection, or learn about some type of hands-on collections care practice using examples from a specific collection. So this is, like I said, it's still in the development phases now, but we're really hopeful that we can have some practical impact as part of this final conference. So I do have we have a lot of time left for questions from all of you that you can type into the question box in just a moment. But before everyone starts furiously typing, I did want to let you know just a few of the questions that we have already gotten several times, or that we could really anticipate getting. So I'll just go through some of these frequently asked questions. One that we've heard quite a bit is, do workshop participants need to live or work within the specific region in order to be involved? The short answer is no. I mean, as far as attending the workshops and even viewing these webinars, if you can find your way there, we're happy to have participants come from California. The kind of caveat to that is that only participants within the region will be eligible for the preservation needs assessments. And then, of course, we will only be holding in-person workshops and programming within the particular geographic region. So if, for example, we end up having a lot of interest from southwestern Pennsylvania in this Appalachian region, we will not be holding any workshops in Pennsylvania, but individuals from Pennsylvania are certainly more than welcome to attend. I touched on this one already a little bit, but I did want to reiterate again because we've heard it from a number of our partners and those that we've already spoken with about the program, is will local collections care professionals and conservators have the opportunity to be involved if they want to? And the answer is absolutely. We would love to hear from anyone who's interested in contributing, whether it's in program development or whether it's in actually presenting at an in-person program or at a webinar. Like I said, we have general topics for all of our in-person programs scheduled already, but we're definitely still looking for topics for our webinars. So we'd love to hear from potential regional presenters there. And then, but if someone wants to get involved but aren't necessarily interested in actually presenting, we would definitely love to have help with curriculum development. We always would love to have help with things like promotional assistance and identifying other potential participants from the region who might want to come, because we're always trying to kind of broaden our reach of reaching potential audiences. So yes, that's a resounding yes. So please get in touch if that's anything you are interested in, or if you have an idea of someone who I should connect with who might be interested. We've gotten the question, do participants need to attend every workshop? Is this kind of a cumulative, iterative process in which it's you have to, if you don't come to the first program, you won't understand the second? The short answer there is no. You're certainly encouraged to take advantage of the full range of training offered, but there's absolutely no requirement or penalty. We are looking to recognize anyone who is able to attend all the programs at the final conference. If there do end up being individuals who do attend all of the programs, we'll be developing some sort of certificate of recognition there, but it's definitely not a requirement. And then another question, this is also something that I touched on before, is what's the difference between this and other programs that have come to the region? Well, I can potentially restate my previous answer in a slightly different way than I did before, which is just by saying that this program is aimed at looking at regional issues rather than state issues. So, for example, I know that I think all three of your states have had really great initiatives, whether they were IMLS connecting to collections, grants, or other things led through the state agencies. But for example, in Ohio, for example, their issues in southeastern Ohio are going to look very different from issues in the more metropolitan centers like Cleveland and Columbus, where perhaps some of the programming in the past has been focused. So we definitely came to this decision intentionally after working throughout the state of Pennsylvania and recognizing that in some of the more rural areas of Pennsylvania have very different needs, capacities, resources, and even types of cultural institutions than the Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Harrisburg regions. So this is something that we have direct experience with, and again, really informed our intention in this region as well. So that's kind of the reasoning behind that. The content, the program content, might not be entirely all that different. So if you were able to attend some of the Connecting to Collections or other programs in your states previously, perhaps these programs through the regional stewardship program will be somewhat of a refresher, but we would hope that they would be a refresher and an opportunity to kind of build on and look towards implementing some of that information as well. So this, for me, technologically, might be the most challenging part of the webinar. I would love to read questions or thoughts that anyone has, which you can submit through typing them in the question or chat function. So bear with me for just a minute while I Does anyone have questions? And if so, could you type them into the chat box or the questions box? Great. Well, we've had, at least I know it's working. One participant has mentioned that the Appalachian area has needed this, which I appreciate reading because that's what we heard from others. So I'll wait just another few minutes. If no one else has questions, then that hopefully means that either I did a fairly decent idea of presenting the scope of this project, or it's complete nonsense and you have no idea what I was talking about. I really hope it's not that. And if it is, please go ahead and email me. So, a question, will you assist someone that is not a nonprofit? That's a great question. So this is another area where, as far as in terms of workshop attendance and webinar viewing, anyone, everyone is welcome to attend and view. But this is another area where for the preservation needs assessments, we will only be able to work with nonprofit collecting institutions. The other eligibility requirements there are pretty open, but being a nonprofit collecting institution is a requirement there. But private, for-profit institutions, collectors, interested, students, interested members of the public, you're all absolutely welcome to attend workshops. Let's see. So we had another question about where the fall West Virginia workshop will be held, and I'm not 100% sure of the exact site, but I'm nearly certain that it will be somewhere in Charleston, because we've been working with the state archives and history center there, and so chances are pretty good that the workshop would actually be on site there, but very safe bet to say that it'll be in Charleston. Also got a comment that the West Virginia Museum Association will be having its conference in March of 2018 in Charleston, and we will definitely make an effort to be involved with that program as well. We unfortunately, just as kind of an aside, the timeline of launching this whole project, I'm realizing now missed a lot of these state conferences. Like I know that the Society of Ohio Archivists conference is, I believe, later this week, and I would have really liked to attend that. I know that I talked to some individuals after this year's West Virginia Museum Association conference and would have liked to be there. So hopefully in 2018 we'll have a much more involved presence at those types of already established conferences and meetings and events like that. Great. Any follow-up questions while you're all on the line? Let me just move to the next slide so you can, if you do want to follow up with additional questions at a later date, or if you want to reach me directly and have a conversation about this, please get in touch. My email address is right there, dfeige@ccaha.org. That's my phone number. We have, as I mentioned, a page on our website devoted to this initiative. It's a little sparse so far, but we're going to be building that out with additional information about our partners in the region, because we are working with a number of partners throughout each region, and more information about upcoming programs. On our website, there is a opportunity to sign up for a newsletter, so you can be sure to get email notifications when we do schedule additional programs and webinars. So another question is, you discussed the flat items as a focus of preservation or conservation. A number of museums would also have three-dimensional items. Will you be will you be providing assistance for those? Absolutely. When I was talking about flat items or paper-based items, I was talking, that's strictly the treatment capabilities in our conservation lab. As far as our preservation education and training and consulting, we work with all different types of collections. Now, that said, we don't have building expertise on our staff, so we don't have preservation architects or historic preservation specialists on our staff. But as far as just about anything that is contained within a building, in museum collections, historic sites, including historic homes, and archival and library collections, our training programs and our surveys and assessments can comprise the entire gamut of types of materials. So yes, absolutely, we will be more than happy to work with museums holding three-dimensional items, and portions of the workshops will be devoted to those types of collections as well. Great question, very good question. There's a real distinction at the Conservation Center between what our treatment capabilities are and what our preservation and education capabilities are, as far as teaching. The latter is much broader and more general. Well, I think in the interest of letting you all out a few minutes early, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, but please, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have additional questions or comments. If you have ideas for workshops, I would love to hear those. If you have ideas for presenters, including yourself, or individuals who could help with curriculum development, or even sites where we could hold future workshops. We have, I would say, strong leads for fall, and even some decent leads for next spring, but nothing 100% solidified yet. So would love to hear from potential sites as well. Do really want to thank in advance the Southeast Ohio History Center and then the Hazard Community and Technical College for hosting us in just a little over a month. And I really, really do hope to see some of you there. It'll be a great way to launch into meeting participants in the region. I'm really excited about coming to the region. And that is about it. So thank you all so much for being participants this afternoon. Thanks for bearing with us in getting our feet wet with this webinar software. Hopefully the technological format was seamless enough for all of you, and we hope to be working with you a great deal more in the future. So please be in touch. Thanks, and have a great afternoon.